Alexis, last week we spoke with an American, and this week we are engaging with um, a Ghanaian, one of our own, quite frankly. In fact, I'm not sure. I mean, he will be as young as at least 3 years, if not less, older than some of you. I'll be frank with that. I mean, if he's older than any particular person level 200 right now, the margin will be, in my estimation, just like 5 to 6, not much. Yes, I'm just giving you an idea. If he decides to tell you his age, that is fine by me. But just to let you appreciate the fact that he's not far from your league, it's not far from your age, and you can achieve. He has achieved more than I did at his age, and he is passionate to engage with us this afternoon, not because he likes to talk, but he's passionate to share and his experiences with you, so that you can also even achieve what he has achieved, even younger than he achieved it, and then it continues like that. Of course, some of you may fall in line, others may just be here because you want to fetch some few marks for yourself. Regardless, I hope it becomes an eye-opener and a benefit to everybody. He was a product of this department. He's worked with a few companies, but he has a very powerful CV as far as his software engineering experience is concerned. And that has thankfully opened other doors for him. He is not a spectator. He is always in the field of play, as I've been advocating for you. The relevance of our course is the motivation for which he is here to let us appreciate what we're doing and how helpful and useful it's going to be, how he can best guide you from his concept. The white man told you his story, but he lived in America, born and bred. But this time you're going to get a Ghanaian perspective, not from an external student from KNUST or somewhere else, but another person who has sat in the same lecture room as most of you and has sat in the tutelage of some of us, the same people who are still engaging with you firsthand, how they got there and how you can also get there, the things you have to put in, how relevant what you are studying is on the job as he is experiencing. He likes to share some of his experiences with the strangers he has to meet, work with in the teams that he's working with, etc. All of that, don't be surprised when you highlight on them. Today we are in good hands. And so for the next 45 minutes to 1 hour, if he's going to cut it short, that is fine. But after that, you will have the opportunity to ask your questions. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Mr. Alexis Adwasi. Yes, he'll give you a background of where he's from and also I leave all of that out. I only limit myself to the academic setting. Alexis, thank you for accepting the invitation to be with us here. You were here last year with the current level 300s and here again in this new batch. They've not met you, they've just heard a gist as I've repeated. We are all yours. The floor is yours. Please take over.
Okay. Thank you. I don't know. Can you see my face?
Oh,
Probably
we
when I'm
can see
presenting
so
now.
clear, excellently.
I'm probably, I might probably turn it off when I'm presenting, so it can be a bit smoother. Yeah, so just like Mark said, Anthony Alexis Adwesi. Also an alumni of Legon, completed 2016. I've worked with maybe a number or probably quite a number of companies. Currently, I'm with Atos. Just so you know, I was not a computer science student even in sorry, I was not a science student in high school. I was a business student. So my computer science stuff actually started in the university. Uh, I'm from Cape Coast, if you'd care to know that. Yeah, so I might be chipping in other things about myself as we go on. I'll just jump on to what we discuss. Mainly, I have the topic design as part of the process of software engineering. So I'll just share my screen to stuff. Some may be practical. I would urge you to just go back and try to attend to them and maybe later meet Mark to have a look at it as to if it is good enough or would be acceptable in case that was probably an assignment or stuff that he had taken up. Is my screen visible?
No,
It is
please.
for me. Yeah.
I can see your screen.
Yes, it is.
That's fine. So just like I indicated, the topic is design, specification, and implementation as part of the software development process, software engineering process. So basically, this is what we go through. We'll talk about design specification, about the creativity that will be involved in that. We'll talk about some few diagrams that you can use to represent solutions, pick a small problem, talk through it with those diagrams, cover a UI, the concept UI, and then we talk about implementation. Implementation will be much. I believe you are all gurus of your languages. If it is 200, then you have more to learn in terms of, programming. So you would want to take up more things, more problems, and then try to solve that. The goal, basically two things. That at the end of the day, or at the end of this meeting, able to create some design specifications for a particular requirement, some particular requirements. In this case, you are basically drafting your solution. After you have your requirements, you want to be able to draft a solution to meet those requirements and then be able to make good implementation decisions. I believe I've already talked about myself, so I'll move on quickly. So the usual will be to start with what the design specification itself is. Throughout the whole presentation, I'm going to assume that the software engineering, the method has been adopted is Scrum, so that I will speak about things in the concept of Scrum. I can make some assumptions in that context. But obviously, I believe you might be aware there are multiple methodologies of software development. So whichever one you go, I do not want to restrict myself to something. To make it more, I don't want to make it too general. I want to make it specific. So if you adopt that strategy, it would be more beneficial. So obviously, this stage would come after the requirement engineering or specification stage. That is to say that you've clearly defined your problem statement. You've gone through the process of putting up what are the requirements, what are the expectations. If it is a business, the expectations of the business. If it is your personal project, what are your expectations at the end of the day? Uh, when you start computer science, you are taught to think about problems from the output point of view. What to achieve at the end of the day. So if you've drafted the requirements based on that, then the design stage, we are concerned about having the solution to address that requirement. So I've written down a whole lot of, say, use cases, login, maybe maybe roles, permissions, all sort of stuff. You've written them down. How then do you draft the solution to that? There is a problem. You have your requirements clearly stated. So now we are concerned about how we can describe the solution to that. So that's why it's a specification. Although note that, it's more like a convention, right? So even though there are design specs, it is going to be iterated in the sense that while even you, if you say, for example, get to the implementation stage and then you realize that, this other approach would be a better design decision, you want to come back and refactor that design solution. In some cases, for example, where you are sometimes bound by time over, say, a sprint, like 2 weeks, you need to deliver something, you want to quickly take a small aspect and go through and complete that to, at the end of the day, produce a usable aspect of the solution. You can always come back to it and then refactor, make it better than it always is. It is that I brought this last aspect that I am calling, it should be realizable, in the sense that because your problem supposedly is complex or or sort of a big task, it doesn't mean that try to generate magical solutions to it. The solution you want to put up should be such that you can actually achieve that solution. It may not be the optimal solution at first or even at start, but that is why we're talking about the fact that you would want to iterate and then make the solution better. Obviously, when you start, more ideas will come in and then you can bring back into the specification. As much as you are describing a solution, there is a core aspect here. I mean, set you apart from other people who might also be doing, who might also be software engineers or programmers or whatever they are. There is a whole aspect being creative with putting up your solution. This you'll have to learn it. You mostly gain it from experience. I mean, some people are good enough. I believe there are people with you that can easily think about things out of the box. But it also helps when you try a lot of projects. It gives you that level of creativity because you have an how things work and you can easily manipulate or work around them to achieve your desired goal. That is why sometimes there are people who might not necessarily be building very good solutions, but the fact that they've been in the industry for quite a while, they tend to bring up solutions easily to items and they are able to work around them to actually develop better ones as the days goes by. So just put this at the back of mind. It is very, very important as part of your solution. You want to be creative. I mean, if there are three businesses, or say there is a business and there are three clients, and you are part of these clients that they want to build a solution for them, they wouldn't want someone who go straight on, not caring about any design stuff, not trying to add any new concepts, things that can be long lasting. You just want to say if it is a form, you just put blank raw HTML page there for look at it and then enter their details. I mean, that would be good for putting up a mock, but it wouldn't be good for a business. And I mean, for a mock, sometimes you want to make it a bit catchy. Some people, when they see some colors and stuff, they are more interested than going to present, say, even a raw page, a raw HTML form to them. They will think then that is what you'll be creating at the end of the day. And they will prefer someone who did add some color, style, some stuff in it. Obviously, that may not be the priority at start, but you want to still something that looks a bit more interesting than your fellow competitors if you are, say, bidding for a contract or you are working on a particular project. I mean, if you ever end up in any company and you're a developer, right? If your company is, say, a software development company, it is quite important that they would want to be getting contract because that's where they will get their money. And being creative would be an add-on for them. So it would really help. Now, let's talk about spec diagrams. I mean, I've described the fact that the design specification itself is about describing the solution. But then, I mean, you could describe it however you want, but there should be somewhat of a conventional standard such that if, say, a fellow software engineer presents a design spec to a business, if I came in at a later time, I should also be able to take that document, review it, and see that, okay, this is what the solution was. That is why there are some standards. But in most cases, you obviously and then you add your own stuff to it. I mean, you hardly stick strictly to what the book says. But I mean, that is in the world of work. But you want to still learn about the full stuff and know how things are represented to make it easier. So we have the UML diagrams, we have the data flow diagrams, we have flow charts, we have entity relationship diagrams. Some sub diagrams under the UML, you could call them activity diagrams, we have the sequence diagrams, you have use case diagrams. So I mentioned that I'll be taking from the perspective of Scrum. Mostly we write our stories that will be worked on within a sprint. And these stories are technically functions of the system that we want to develop. And these functions then can be considered as use cases. So you can have a use case like, say, as a user, I want to be able to log into this portal so that I can have access to my details. I mean, use case here is being able to log in. You might consider this be more. Have access to your details with me. There's another use case of authorizing someone to be able to access some details, because the fact that it is you that is logging in, do you have access to view some details is a different question altogether. These are, I'm talking about these things just so you can have an idea, sort of the things you need to think about if you are describing your solution. Now, let me talk about this one. Then I said I'll go back to the diagrams and then we'll see how we can represent some of them on a diagram. Let's take a simple problem statement and apply those diagrams we talked about there. I mean, the problem is really simple. Science or CSIT, IT department of UJ says they want a guest logbook. This is a problem we have. We have our requirements there. A guest is supposed to be able to log in. I mean, there is an admin who is supposed to also view the visits from guests. When these guests, we want to also assume that they are given, say, a key card number so that whoever attended to them at the reception will give them this key card that they will be used to move around or enter places. When they are leaving, they will hand it over back to the department. So something simple. Now, given this one, we want to see how, I mean, these are the requirements I've put up. So we want to just go through how we can represent these, the solution to these ones on using some of these diagrams. I mean, it is quite important that regardless of how the project is, you want to scribble something on paper. I mean, there are apps that you can easily use. One I mostly use is diagrams.net. It used to be .io. I mean, it should be your best friend if you want to quickly draw up some UML diagrams, some flowcharts and stuff. So I see my screen switch to draw.io. Can you see?
Yes, guys, he's making communication. So if you can see, let him know.
Okay.
I can see.
Sure. So if you can see, I just wanted to talk through this solution and then all these diagrams. I mean, this particular section of software engineering is very practical. It would have been nice if we were on a board and I was drawing stuff to go through, but let's take it that I've already done it, but I'll talk through it. Hope that's okay. I hope that's
Yes,
okay.
please. Yes,
Yeah,
please.
sure. So let's put the problem statement I put there and then the few requirements I talked about at the back of our minds. And let's go through these diagrams with it. So the first one, we have these UML diagrams. We have also the data flow diagrams. I'm going to start with the data flow diagrams. Finally, I mean, UML diagrams, I'll talk through it and then you can later pick it up and do more of these ones. But I'll mostly represent, I'll probably pick sequence diagram. I'll do DFD flowcharts, the ERD, and then I'll do a sequence diagram for the UML diagram. So, I mean, what then would be a data flow diagram? This if you've gone through the engineering, I mean, approaches to the requirements engineering, and it all actually in the design, you want to think about things either from top down or bottom up. Last year when I talked about requirements engineering, what I told them was that the bottom up usually you would require some bit of experience because you need to know how small a unit can come out of a particular problem. But normally, with your experience in have multiple projects, it easily comes to mind. But the easiest way is to think about a thing from top down. So at the top layer, then we can now break it down gradually. That would make it easier to go through your flow, so that you get to know that, okay, you look at things from the bigger picture. But if you're a developer, you're a software engineer, you should also be able to look at things from a minute level to know their impact on the overall system. That is quite important. How things interact or relate to each other, how the various components of the system would interact is quite important. But regardless, I mean, a software engineer could end up being an architect, right? A software architect. It's important that you are also able to look at things from the top level and be able to break it down. In one of the places I worked, even though I had gone in later, I met some developers there, but I ended up being the one doing tax breakdowns of what each person had to do. Because, I mean, I was familiar with being able to break down tax from that bigger level when we've been given a particular problem and having to make it into smaller chunks that everyone could work on. So trying to develop that skill, it's quite important. When businesses are speaking to you, your mind should run wild. See the big picture. At the same time, try to see what little things can have influence on the overall that you're trying to achieve. So DFD, just like the name suggests, it says it's a data flow diagram. That is to say that we want to consider how data moves in and out of our system. At the top level, this is what we have. There is a guest, there is an admin based on the requirements I gave. There is obviously a system that we want to build. So DFDs are actually in levels, right? We have level 0 upwards. Level 0 will be the point where usually the representation is that have a big box that will represent your systems. I don't care what is in that system. And at first, you don't want to care about what is in your system. But then, given that this is your system and the actors on your system, how does data move in and out? If you're able to represent this one, so in this case, obviously, like I said, guests will clock in. The system at the end of the day, if they clock in, we need to give them some welcome message. And as I indicated, we would also present them with a key card number so that the receptionist can just pick up that key card and give to them. What will the admin do? The admin will then be able to view the guests. He can also view visits. I left visit out here, but that's why I'm saying that try to take this thing, maybe a day or two, try to run through some of these diagrams and complete it, make it a complete set. So these are basically 3 data flows for us, right? That is why we are calling this diagram a data flow diagram. That is it. We don't care about the system in itself. Nor are we consider we obviously we need to know the system is just one box. There are actors that are outside the system. Or guest is not in your system. The guest is someone, if you are taking it from the department, the guest is someone who come to the department. So that person is not part of your system. The system is the one that will actually plug them in and also give them that key card number and welcome message. The admin who will say that receptionist there inside the system. He's also external to the system. So what do you want to care about is what are the things that are external to the system? Represent them. Have also the system itself as one box. And now consider all interactions of data that go into it and come out of it. Even from what I say, you realize there are more levels of data that could be going into this and coming out. I don't know, is this level 0 clear? Give me some feedback so I know. If not,
Yes,
Yes,
please.
yes,
oh,
please.
sure.
Yeah.
Clear.
So now at the level 1, right? What do you want to care about is, obviously now you know all the data that is coming into the system. You have your system there and you know all kinds of data that will come in as well as what will need to go out of your system. And the at the level one, you want to take the system and see what components then will this system have. Also at another top level, even though this time around we are looking at itself, the system will have components at its top level. I mean, these components may also have sub-levels in there. So when we guest logbook system, we can have, I mean, there should be a portal that they would actually be logging in. We can have maybe a service that will be receiving the data and store it in a database. So there's also the guest database somewhere. So then I would say this is the level one for the overall system. I mean, I'm taking you through this so that you will know how to think up through things. That will make it easier for you to, one, represent the solution, as well as even make it easier when you are implementing how to structure your what then happens at the level two. If you can imagine, if you can assume from what we did from level one, I took now the big box and I broke it into its components. At the level two, you would want to take, so normally, even though I did it this way for the back service, it will still be one box. And then for each of the components, you want to break it also down. I have the backend web service here. There's a guest manager in there. There's a notification service. Like I said, we need to notify them. Obviously, notification, I could just present some message on the web page. I'm also notifying you. There could be other decisions where after the person clocks in, because he say, for example, provides a phone number, you want to quickly send them an SMS number. Assuming, say, where they pick the key card is separate from where they actually clock in. So when he's going to the person to pick the card, he's supposed to show that SMS with that key card number, and then he's given that card. So one, obviously, we need to save that guest details. Like I said, admin would be interested in the guests as well as their visits. There's also the clocking service, how they would then take that details and end up giving it to the manager to store. This is a DFD, and it's not anything complex, but you just need to be sure that you are covering all your tracks, right? So at the top level, the system is just one big box. So say like a black box, you don't know what is in there. Let's consider every data that comes in, every data that goes out. Now, at the next level, you want to think about it in terms of that your big black box. What will be the components that make up that box? For each of these big components, can these also be broken down further? If they can be, I mean, so the levels, the number of levels would actually depend on you and the complexity of the problem that you're trying to solve. This is a DFD. I'll take flowcharts next. Let me also caution you that the diagrams, you are not obliged to say, I mean, there are a lot of diagrams you can use to represent your design. It doesn't mean that make sure that for your design every single diagram is in there. That's not how it works. I mean, another software engineer takes your design documents where these architectural diagrams are in there. They should be able to get a full picture. So we'll do as many or enough that can represent your solution. This also comes to what I wanted to assume it is Scrum, right? Scrum, you know, you want to release a usable aspect within a sprint. So Scrum also, or even Agile Scrum, that too extensive documentation. However, it preaches comprehensive and just enough documentation that can be used to produce a usable part of the product. Say that don't also just come and represent your solution with say DFD level, I mean, then what is the system? Because the solution is actually the system. It is true these data comes in, but if you only present your DFD level 0, then it defeats the purpose, because people cannot tell what the system, how the system will actually be designed. Say if you were the architect and you were giving it to another software engineer, he will not be able to know, or developer or programmer, he will not be able to know how to develop that system, because you only gave him he knows what data to receive and what data to present, not how interaction should occur within the system. So mostly I would prefer a flow chart for cases where you have a lot of decisions. I mean, you want to represent decision step or flow, what thing is supposed to happen after that, or what activity is supposed to happen in terms of that. So if you take this, for example, still on our problem statement, we have, say, a guest clocking. The system starts, a guest now comes in and clocks in. I want to make a decision when he's clocking in. Has our guest already clocked in? For example, this guest might have stepped out and is coming back in. Does that mean we should get them a new keycard number? No. So if this guest has already clocked in, what then would I want to do? I want to check if for this guest in the system and his keycard number. This is also for a case where if you are moving out, you take your card number or your key card. So when you come in, we just give you the same one. We don't do a different one altogether. Now, if we're able to get this guest and the key card number, I then build a message. I mean, I draft a message with the card number and then find them that they've already clogged in. And this message is then sent to the user. The flow ends for this particular one. Now, I intentionally left this box on the left. That is for you to think through the particular process. So this guest has not already clogged in. If it is no, what process flow would continue in terms of this? Whilst you continue flow, are there any decisions at any point again that you need to then split on yes or no, or whatever the responses are, if it is a yes or no, or any other one, any other decision that needs to be made? So this is what I'm saying. After the presentation, you can take it and just think through it. I mean, the ideas that you come up could help you in whatever projects that you're working on now. I believe you're already interacting with clients. So that would, even though this may not be your project, it would give you an idea as to how to think through the ones that you are really working on. So this then would be a flowchart. And like I said, at best, normally you would want to start with this DFD, the top level, try to get one. If at this point, if whilst breaking it to the sub levels is becoming a bit complex, you can jump onto a flow chart in some places where you want to represent actions and what actions are supposed to take place. So that's for a flow chart. There is also a sequence diagram. So that is under a UML diagram. I mean, you've done some bit of programming. You'd realize that regardless of, say, a programming language, we write the code sequentially, and activities that happen, write these codes for us are going to be sequential. A guest has to come to the office first. When he gets to that reception, he has to be given the, say, if it is maybe a simple, an iPad or whatever they use, if it's a computer, that's fine. When they are given that, they will first have to log in on this portal. Now, when they are clocking in by providing, say, their name and phone number, what then happens? That would also maybe forward data to another service. So if you look at the components we talked about in the DFD level 1, there was also a backend service. This data goes to this backend service. When the backend takes it, what we said we wanted the admin to view the guest, right? So that means we need to be able to store this guest data. So there's a database somewhere. Now, I've not linked it here. This is another level I want you to think through yourself. The sequence of activities from the guest to the guest, the logbook portal. to the backend service and to the DB, how this data is saved over there. Data would also need to come back. At the end of the day, we've been talking about the notification. So just see how you can link these ones in this particular context. Note this guest logbook is just a simple scenario. So don't make it too complex. You would want to also cover your all necessary parts that can make you produce a usable logbook. Not something that if you put it up, someone logs in and then it's useless. Just think about it in that line. So this is how a sequence diagram would also be represented, right? It's a sequence of activities. So something goes to another part, another component. When that component gets it, what's the next sequence in the flow? It also goes to another component by maybe an activity. It goes to a database. It comes back in that regard. Then we would refer to this as, say, a sequence diagram. Obviously, if you've already finished your requirement stage, I believe that you had considered who are the users of your system. Even thinking through the design, I believe by now we know, if not anything at all, we are familiar to the two users, right, that we saw from the DFD. We have a guest, we have an admin. But are these the only entities within the system? So we've also at this side, we have the entity relationship diagram. What then are the actors which will obviously become entities within your system? What tangible objects can you also represent within your system or entities? Just to know that, I don't know if you've already done object-oriented programming, but I mean, it's a paradigm where we think about the or the software items in a way of solving the problem. We think about it in terms of objects, what functions these objects can perform, and then what characteristics these objects have. So if we are going via an OOP approach, then it represents all the entities within your system. So this ER diagram, I mean, there's entity within our system, obviously. We also have the admin entity. I would personally claim that even the visit is also an entity within my system. Because like I said, an admin will be interested in seeing the visits, will be interested in seeing the guests. I mean, a guest must be associated with something. He visits. And if he visits, then what is the representation of that visit? That would also become an entity within my system. So while I talked about that OOP, I didn't mention the fact that these objects have some properties. If they do have properties, how then they become the on our entities, right? So there's obviously for our guests, we could say we have their name, and for an admin, we have the name. If a guest visits and visits is an entity, then for that visit, you can, I mean, deduce that a visit is done by a guest. If it's done by a guest, then the guest needs to be represented on this visit. I mean, when did they visit? The date would also be important. These are just some few fields you would be interested in once you think through the entities on your system. We've talked about the fact that this particular solution is interested in giving out key cards. I mean, these key cards ought to exist in the system so as to know at any point what key card is assigned to a particular guest. Now, I've only represented the entities here, but the entity relationship diagram, like the name, is not only about presenting the entities. What are the relationships between these entities? You realize within this, while I've talked about how these entities I put here interact. There are aspects where we are concerned about the fact that one entity relates maybe strictly once entity. There are cases where one entity can have more or relates or have more sub interactions with another entity. So there are those relationships where we say one to one, one to many, many to one, many to many. For example, a guest can have many visits in. So even though a guest is related to a visit, he's not related, he will not only have one visit. It's not like that guest will come to the department only once. They can come again. So I could say that the relationship between a guest and then a visit is one to. You want to think through all these ones, and these are how you represent them. That's why I said you could have represented them in your own way. You could even write them in English. But then if another software picks those up, it become when they are represented within these standard representations, it becomes easier for that person to understand and know what you are trying to tell them to do. For example, if the specification was given to a programmer, he will quickly on because he knows, or say a DB admin, they will know exactly how to create these tables and then link, show the relationships or represent those foreign keys, represent the interactions between the entities. You can put any constraints that would exist on them. So that is an entity relationship diagram. I will try and share these. I'll share, for example, the draw IO files. If you've not used it before, it would be a good chance for you to try it out. Try and link them. I mean, the things you use to work on these ones all on the left side here. They would easily help you. You pick an item and then you can drag it, link them. You can show the one-to-one, one-to-many, all of these ones. For example, there's a section on entity relationship here. You can easily pick the relationship lines and then you can represent them on there. So I'll try and share all these draw IO files. Just think through them. And once you do it, you can pick your projects that you've taken up by the side and then use the same idea to walk through it. So I'll continue the presentation. So that was for guest logbook. But note that this one we talked about, we've obviously talked about the fact that there's going to be a portal. One thing you should not take out of your design specification is mock UIs. You want to present something to show how the interface would look like. If there is an interface, I mean, obviously, there are cases you will build systems that do not have an interface because, say, they are sitting behind running a script, and then this say like a that is running as a process on your Linux machine and then performing certain activities. No UI, but if there is, it is important to include your UI designs within the specifications. So just something simple. I would have, this could be, say, where they would enter the details, the guest logbook, right? They enter their name, the phone number, and they can click a button to clock in. I mean, when you see this, you have an idea what is expected of that guest. If there's organizations, you can put it here. Anything to give more appeal, you can do it when you're actually doing the implementation. But there should be something to show what would happen. Pictures actually speak more, so it would help to take that much into consideration. Now let's talk about the implementation. So that's for the designs. The truth is there is more to talk about than the design. But like I said, it all boils down to the problem that you have, the solution you're trying to, as well as the creativity you put. So you saw my mock design. Maybe if it was another person, they would have done something different to show how that interface would be. Now, this design, or the goal of all this design is to make it easier to actually implement the solution. Note that of the design, you can be writing code, cleaning, coming back to write. You might even end up writing the same code 2 or 3 times because you realize you wrote it first. You thought, oh, this is not a good code, or it doesn't actually solve the problem. You clear it, try to write something else, and okay, let me keep the old one. All these kinds of back and forth can actually be just having a very clear design spec. And like I told you, don't make it too bulky. But the little that it is, it should clearly state what is supposed to be done. If it is Scrum, you are concerned about your sprint. So within the 2 weeks, what can be done? You can just prepare the spec for just that sprint and work on it. Now, when you're implementing, obviously that's when you're actually doing the coding or the programming, right? I normally advise that you would want to start with a preferred and familiar language or programming tools. See, the tool you are using may not be best for the solution you want to put up. But even if you're going to learn another one to solve it, it is better to start with what you are familiar with so that you can make a headway. If you finish school, it's more about actual real world problems, and you're also concerned about making money. You don't want to. So you can present a solution. Whilst people are using it, you are doing the optimization. So my suggestion, start with the language and the programming. It is easier for you, and then you can easily cook up something. In that case, you get going. I mean, it even informs how you would actually do it with the best. Now, when you have say started with that your language, that doesn't mean the one that you started with, the not so or two for it, means that you also leave it not good enough. You would want to optimize this particular one that you've done. Now, once you optimize, I mean, that is where you would realize that it may not be the best tool for it. Another language or another tool that you are using that may be prefer another library. So that is where then you go on to investigate alternative tools that might provide a more efficient means of delivery. Normally, you would have thought that, okay, we'll do the investigation first, but note, like I said, this is a context of Scrum, Agile. Delivery is quite important. At the end of the sprint, you need to produce something that is usable. It may not be the best, but because it is also an iterative process, you are sure that by 2 or 3 sprints, you would have optimized some bit of what you did earlier. Your client will see, okay, there's progress. Oh, it was like this. Now, okay, I think this is even better. Thank you for making this update. It actually provides a means for you to also lengthen your contract and to get more money. So you can also put that at the back of your mind if that is enough. So once you investigate, obviously you will then go back to refactor, optimize again. So you might have optimized with the initial tool, but if you alternative tools or languages that might work best, when you come back, you refactor and then you optimize this again for the clients if it is your own product for yourself. This is just a few. I mean, implementation. We cannot talk about the coding here. That one you'll be doing it in your programming language classes. You'll be talking about it in your programming language class. So I just thought to give you some guidelines on how you actually design it based on the specification. And note, during implementation, you do encounter the need. If you do encounter a need to adjust what the design spec is saying, always remember to go back to also modify the design spec. I don't know if you've talked about Git version control. You can have your design and version control, and then you can modify them alongside. When you make a change, version them so that you can know what stages your application has gone through. It is quite important. So implementation give you some ideas on how to modify the design. Make sure to go back to the design. Right. Otherwise, later when you are trying to maintain your application, you go back and you think that, okay, the design was this way. But when you go back to the code is saying a different thing. And it becomes a whole confusion between, say, different. I mean, you might leave a company, another person comes and he's suffering because the design spec actually says something different from what has been done. I'm sure this covers most of it. I don't know, Mark, how many minutes did I take? I want to give an opportunity for any questions and stuff.
Yes, yes. Now would be a perfect time to ask the questions. It's in order. I've seen some hands already up. They already noticed you are nearing an end. I don't know how many of them really did pay attention, but those who are surely are benefiting greatly. If you have watched the videos and done the reading assignment, obviously he has highlighted practically how relevant some of these things can be implemented. It's essential that you don't just assume what you want to do, but put it into writing. Understand the data flow of your application, your solution. Who are the cases going to mediate within the system? How is the data going to flow? Are we going to have one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-many? These things are important. You really need to detail these things out. Once you are successful at this, coding is not a problem because you are not thinking twice. You know exactly what you are going to implement. You know, this is essential. This weekend I'm taking your proposals. Anyway, only one hand is up. I don't know whether it's because of my assignment deadlines you have to meet today that is making some of you quiet or something. But that will not change the story. Yes, bless Ziama. The floor is open. Can you ask your question? Turn on your camera. Let's see the one we are talking to. Yes, bless. Bless, is it there? He's raised his hand. Is it a lady or a guy? Mustafa, do you know her or him?
No, I don't know him.
You don't.
Yeah.
So why has the person kept the hand up? Okay, so let me lower the hand. Yes. So oh, okay, some hands are up. Okay, so the questions are in relation to this. Okay. Now beyond this, you can also ask questions about his journey and all, aside from what he has said. But let's address the questions that are coming up from what he presented. David, I would love to hear you pronounce your own surname. Can you do that for me, David? David,
Yes, sir.
your name
Please,
is
my question is,
your full name.
yeah, please, my question is,
I wanted you to
with
mention your
the
full name first.
design technology strategy to use, is it advisable to go by the documented way, or sometimes you can switch it to the diagrammatic way? Because let's say in a case where you are left with less time to produce or to deliver your project, which mode should you adapt to make things easier for you?
I'm not sure if I got the initial part of your statement. Is it in terms of the diagrams, the representations that you are concerned about, or what? Clarify your question again.
David, can he hear us?
Please,
Okay.
the network is very bad here, so I can't hear.
Okay,
The network is very
your
bad.
network is not favoring you. You try your best and let's hear you. Since you are the only person interested in asking a question, it will be worth giving you the opportunity. Suddenly, when we're about to end, 172 people. Oh, there's a timestamp on whenever anybody got on this platform. So me, I know. So they shouldn't bother. Right. David, continue. David. Okay, David's line is it's not unfortunate. It's not um, living up to.
Please, my network is very bad. I can't hear you.
Okay, we heard you right now. Ask your question. Let me use the chat. I don't know whether he sees it. Now, if you have network challenges, and you can also type your message, you should let us know. You can type it out if your network is not favoring you. I recall last year it was our guest who was having network issues, but he got them resolved. Okay, so we'll replace um we'll replace David with Hammond. Hammond, please ask your questions.
So, for example, let's say when it comes to the implementation part of the diagram, and you have the team, maybe they want to implement a database or maybe the backend, and they want to use a particular language, maybe let's say PHP or any language that you are not familiar with. You have to go to, because the team, majority of them know that particular language, so they decide to use that language. So it means that you, one of the team members, you have to go through maybe upscaling to be able to get abreast with the language that they are about to use. So I wanted to ask what are the maybe processes that you have to go through to be able to catch up with your team members, so you not be left behind during the maybe sprint.
King, have you heard of the concept of microservices?
I've heard of it, but I'm not familiar. I've just heard of them.
Yeah, so it provides a way where team members with different skills can build. I mean, if there's a component you are working on, really build this component or that part of that service with your language of preference. What happens is that at the end of the day, the services interact, right? I mean, that provides a better way, and then it will be quicker for you if the design actually adopted microservices approach. But in your case where others have chosen that, okay, PHP is what, or most people are more familiar with PHP, so they prefer PHP. What about the front end? I mean, this is an actual problem that could happen in a team. Now there's a project at hand. Obviously, within 2 weeks, we need to deliver something that can be used. But then different skill sets. It is also quite important that you try to share knowledge. So Scrum preaches that it tries to build the teammates to be of the same level. When a Scrum team starts, people will be of different skills. But as the team grows, it is expected that because of their interactions, everyone would have come to be on that same, not necessarily obviously some people have bigger brains than others, but you would have yourself to that level. But because of the way Scrum works, I would say that when tasks to work on, right? There's this Scrum principle or value that talks about courage, what you know you can work on. That doesn't also mean that go and choose the one that will declare a variable when you know there are other big tasks for the whole team to work on. So is there an aspect you think you are good at? I mean, it's not only a backend. Is it only a backend you guys are working on?
No, please.
Yes, so to split the tasks according to the team's skills. If it is a long-term project, what happens is within the sprint, you might take another smaller task on that other aspect where people are using the PHP. Get someone to give you a run through of PHP. Try some things outside the project work hours just to be familiar with how things work. And then pick a smaller task. Someone will guide you to come up to speed whilst you work on that. By 1, 2, 3 sprints ahead, you are familiar with the language, and you can even help them on the main big ones that they are using PHP, or the whole team has determined that, okay, we'll be using PHP to do. I don't know, does this help?
Yes, thank you.
Well, like I said, you can look into the microservices. It provides a good way to build solutions. I mean, the tools can be different because they are smaller services. These services are, and then they can be built in either language or whichever they want.
Great. Raphael, but guys, as he's making mention of microservices and other things, please think through this. I know Raphael may ask some of these questions. He has the team, their technical abilities is limiting them, so they wanted to stick with WordPress and other things. And the group members are on one side and other side. Now, all these are constraints you are meeting, but all has to be discussed. So please ask your questions and let's see how practical they are to you. Raphael, so you proceed and ask your questions.
Yeah. Okay, so I have two questions. The first one, if you have like a big project, or maybe you have front end and back end, so and you're sharing the tasks, like the whole team maybe share the front end first among the team. Then when you are done with the front end, then you share the back end, or one team moves to the front end, then the other team moves to the back end. So they are working on it simultaneously. Then the second question, I know as per in the real world, as per your experience, there are some jobs that you should not take. Maybe some software jobs, maybe some company or some individuals. Maybe it's not really about the technicality. Maybe the way because the client is, or behavior or something like that. So what are the jobs that you should avoid? You should avoid totally. Maybe you should not, when you see those red flags, just avoid it totally and don't take it. Yeah.
Great, great, great. I think we heard you, and thanks for your submission as well. Any more hands? 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 So nobody's asking him how he got to where he's working. How do you also get there? Nobody's asking that question. Nobody's interested. Okay, we'll leave it there.
Oh,
Angie,
the guys are already
I
good.
was about
The
to
guys are
ask.
already good.
now, oh, where are all the hands coming from now? Where did these people come from? Where were they? Angie, you are number one.
Yeah, yeah. Please, I wanted to ask him, if he were to start his journey again, what red flags do he avoid so that he won't end up
Yes,
wasting all
this
his
is a
time?
very intelligent question. I will even let you finish. And mind you, he did not say that he was a science student. He was not even admitted as a science student. There are some of you who can relate to his story. But here is the case: you are speaking to a software engineer working with a very giant company, tech giant company abroad. So the kind of question I was really expecting, some of you, I don't know whether you are distracted because of my assignment or what, but you be there and be keep it quiet. When you lose him, that's the end. I won't give you a recording of this video. I'll delete it. Yes, all right. Anchi.
Oh,
So Alexis, I think we had Anchi's question. If you had a chance to
Yeah.
begin afresh, what are some of the bumpy roads you want to avoid? I mean, or maybe you are lucky you made certain decisions, if that is also the case.
It's a good question. Give me just a minute to go through. I want to see
Yeah,
what I
process it.
would.
I know. Nobody asked this question last year. I can't remember.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, I've had a chance to watch some videos and stuff, and there's something one guy said. Two parts that you want to be able to go from the university level. I mean, outside, because they do high school, these ones at the high school level. You could choose to do competitive programming. I mean, you know those ones where like some hackathons and you have to prepare something within a short time and go and defend these things. There's another leg where you could also choose to do a lot more of open source development. All these important. Honestly, I was more of the learning type, trying to practicalize things in my own way, not necessarily doing the open source or doing the programming. But I did usually, for example, if I heard this was there's a hackathon and this is what they were working on, I'll try to think through if I was the one, what will I do? But in my own way, I won't try to do it for that competitive stuff. I mean, also for the open source one, we heard about projects, but at the time, we were mainly admiring them. So right now, what I wish I would have done, and I wish even all of you do, try to work on more projects yourself. However little it may seem. For example, I gave you this guest logbook, right? In the design specification. if I was you at that time, I will actually try to even build this product a complete one. The truth of the matter is, if you don't go through it, you can actually read around it, think through it, and oh, I've done this, I would have done that. It's a different story if we're actually putting it into practice. Another thing I would do is to hone my data structures and algorithm skills more than I ever did. See, there is not enough for them to teach you all data structures available. Say the basic ones you've learned. You've learned array. You've learned the data structures in particular. You've learned array. You've learned trees. You've learned graphs. Were they able to cover graphs into detail? Were they able to cover, say, things like queues? Were they able to cover linked lists into detail? Priority? Were they able to teach you how graphs are represented very well? These things you had more time to, or lecturer may not have had time because he had to teach you a lot of things within, say, one semester. If you ever want to get into a big company, it is one thing that you need to, that you have skill for. Problem solving. Their way of detecting that you are good at problem solving is being able to solve, say, write down pseudocode, data structures and algorithm questions. I mean, sorting. You have been asked that, okay, there is a particular item in a list, try to open things like that, sort questions like that. They are interested in it because you go about it on a daily basis. One thing you even want to know about is how efficient your code is. I mean, Google processes data in millions every day. They wouldn't want someone who will come and write code and then if you search, say, boy in Google search, it takes 2 minutes for you to get results. I'm sure you wouldn't like that. So these big tech guys are interested in problem solving skills and efficiency. So data structures and algorithms, never take it for granted. If you start, it might not be too late. If you start right now, I mean, there are sites like Lead Code, there's HackerRank. There are a lot of sites that you can learn. This is like Geeks for Geeks. They teach you these concepts and things easily. They have code samples there you can go through, try to give yourself, pick some questions, and then try to solve them yourself. These are things I wish I had done more in school. Is that good enough for you?
Yes, please. It's good. Good. Thank you.
I hope you've done due diligence. I mean, you've done your bit on this question. Right. Let's take the next 3 more questions, and I think we'll wrap it up. Amokwando. Veronica, can you pronounce your full name for me to
Yes.
hear?
Amokwando.
Abokwando. Where do you hail from?
Hey, do I even? I'm a fancy.
Are you sure? Alexis, can you confirm that this name is a fancy name?
Yes.
Interesting. Anyway, Veronica, the floor is yours. What would you want to ask your tribesmates?
Okay, so Mr. Alexis, please, as like when you started introducing yourself, you were a business student in SHS, and you came to this school to do IT or something. So I also came. I was also a business student in SHS, and I'm doing IT. And like when we started, I wasn't seeing top.
Confess. I was a
Okay.
thorn in your flesh. I admit.
Yes, I wasn't seeing top. So now that I'm seeing top small, okay, I want an advice from you. So if I want to get to where
Hope
you
so.
are, yes, thank you so much.
Yes. See,
Alexis, please, let's save a soul.
just like any other field of work, right? truth of the matter is there's a level of sacrifice you need to give. I mean, when I came to school, there were people, I mean, those science students, when we start, they are so familiar with some things and they go through quickly and stuff. If say that student is spending 2 hours practicing something, what it means is you might have to spend more. I mean, looking at yourself, trying to understand yourself and how you can grasp things when you are reading or learning. But there is this one I think is the most important. Not necessarily determination, but you need to love the thing that you're doing. If that is where you've come to, and then, I mean, you've come to IT. Now, okay, even now, like you said, now you are seeing top a little. Get yourself to love this thing a little more. When you love it, what is going to happen is you'll be interested to learn things into a deeper level than they would normally come to teach you. I told this to the last group of people that I personally, when we were doing programming courses, teacher comes, teach you variable, teach you this, teach you that. The truth, like I said, even in terms of development, the truth is when you go, don't just go over what the teacher taught. That's the truth, because it won't let you see the little things that you need to be familiar with. You cannot learn everything. I mean, no matter the book you read, say if it is Java, you cannot get it fully from that book until you practice things, try to use it to solve a problem, and then encounter an error. I would say that always be happy when you get in your code. You know why? The reason is it is see the error and correct it than not see error and think that what you have written is correct. So when you see, you're happy because now you've got another challenge to solve. And as you solve that, you know that you're actually making the code or the solution more efficient or better. So the other level of sacrifice would mean that, like I said, put in a little more effort yourself. Love it. And then stretch yourself a little bit when you are trying to, maybe when you're even giving problems and stuff. Modify the problem yourself. Or when you write code, intentionally change stuff to see what happens and try to understand why those things happen the way they did. I mean, that would give you that broadened knowledge so that if you are given a different one, you would know how to work around it. But if you stick to the books and other ones, in case you don't understand it properly, you might feel that, okay, I mean, you are not even meant for this place, which will not be the case, because everybody, as long as you are here, I believe that you have an opportunity to do better in this field. I hope that
Great, great.
helps.
Yes, you've done due diligence. I think the letter I'll add to this question is, I mean, the response. Please, I'm not accepting anybody's hand after not being. If you raise your hand, I will let it down or lower it down. If you remember what the Google guy told you, how do you prepare to get to where he is? Challenge yourself. Take some coding competitions, challenges online, interviews, options that are online. For example, Liti Code, Code Signal. These are platforms you can even sign up for free. And challenge yourself. You may not know how much you know. They give you challenging problems, some of which would definitely present themselves in different forms when you are interviewing for Google and the likes. And this may come at some sacrifice because that is an extra commitment aside from your regular routine as a student. Unfortunately, when you're on vacation, some of you just make sure you're on vacation. But these are sometimes you have to be sacrificing to prepare yourself for the future, especially now that you have somebody paying for your fees and taking care of you. It's very, very important you take such steps. Okay, so we go to a Sylvie. Sylvie, ask your question. Arafin, get
Hello,
ready, and then for and not being
hello, please.
climatic. Yes, Chris, proceed.
So please, I want to ask, working with team members and other people on projects, what were some of the challenges that you faced, and how best did you come about with? How best did you escape from these challenges?
Some did escape or even quit. He will tell you his story. Alexis.
So, that's like I said. I mean, see, the truth is, you will have to work with people. So there is supposed to be a level of tolerance that you have. I mean, it's one of the values that Scrum preaches. Sometimes you want to compromise on your own values just so things can be cool for everyone. Because that's teamwork. They, at the end of the day, is that we deliver for business. Being able to be on good terms with everyone is quite important. But there are some people, regardless of what you do, they will still make the situation worse than it's supposed to be. So it's not like, I mean, at the end of the day, you stretch yourself and then you feel. Where get to know yourself, how much you can stretch it, and be willing to go for the team. When you start on projects, and then usually it's good if you start with people together on something, right? When some people, yeah, they are familiar with certain things than others, that is when usually things come up. But if we are all on the same level 0, or even it's just some one level ahead of you, it makes things somewhat easier to catch up with them. You see, that's why I mentioned that Scrum desires or tries to ensure that team level skills are almost at the same level. Task. We know that these are all challenging ones for us. But do your best. I mean, for students per se, for example, you join, someone is not even coming for any meeting at all. Try to reach them. If you can't, try to reach them. It doesn't mean that you also leave the work. I mean, it needs to be done. There are cases in school that my teammates will never come. But then during a day to the presentation, they will come and you still have to take them through what we all have done.
Charlie, what's up? How did it go?
It will get you annoyed, but know your limits, know how much you can accommodate or tolerate them. If it goes beyond, then that one, it's fine if you say that, okay, you will not do this. But there should be a wide level of tolerance for the team. I don't know, is that okay?
I think you've done due diligence to the question. I'm sure he will settle with that. Arafin, okay, as if we've asked the question before, okay, your hand was already up, so I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Can we proceed?
Okay, sir.
Yes,
Alex,
Arafin.
this is how my question goes. Yes, sir. So as a software developer, there is definitely something unique about you. So I want to ask, what are some of the hidden or secret principles you use as a software developer to achieve some of your tasks? In as much as software engineering processes are involved, there are some certain hidden things that wouldn't be available to us as students, or that wouldn't be written. So what are some of your principles you use
The
for
first
software
one is,
developer to achieve?
I'm the kind that I will not, I mean, until that problem is solved, right? I will not stop working on it. So say, if you're giving me an issue or a particular coding problem, I've tried it wasn't working. I mean, even if I have to do all night just to try and solve that problem, I will sit and do all night. Like, I am determined to make sure the problem gets solved before I stop. And I believe that quite a lot because it makes it easy to learn things. Also, other aspects I mean, each of you can easily pick up. If you learn, say, a language or a tool or something, problem, and try to use it to solve it, it will force you to learn all the things necessary to address or to bring up a solution. For example, say you are familiar with PHP, like the other guy said, and then you want to learn something like React. Then this time around, pick a small project and try to build a React. Don't. I mean, this on your own personal level. So don't pick up PHP again. React and use React to build that solution. What then happens is you are forced to make sure that you can build a working solution with React. So the interest also comes. Okay, how is this done? In PHP, I had to do this. How is this done? Naturally, you'll be curious on how things will be done in the other language. Before you realize you are building and you are proud of yourself. That's the second one with me. The other thing
Yes.
is obviously sacrifice. If you need to do a sleepless nights just to come up with some solution or to think through some stuff or to do a bit of online checks and stuff, please do. I mean, don't be there are times you can, but be lazy after you found the solution. This last one, I mean, it was one lecturer at the time that told me, if you are building or you are developing something, right? Don't every simple thing that you write. Intentionally go maybe 100, 200, 300, 400 lines before you be eager to that. The reason is if you do just 50, you write your test and it passes, you might feel a bit lazy to do more. But if you have 100 lines of code and you have to test all that 100 lines, when you test and then 50 fails, you know there is another 50 to test. By the time you finish solving all, you are rather into it, and then you will continue with it. This forward help.
Great, great, great. He highlighted several things. One, he said you have to be, I mean, in brief, you have to be very disciplined. Very, very, very disciplined. Now, he mentioned discipline before he even made mention of passion. But the passion is a motivation. If you let the passion lead you and you are not disciplined, you'll remain a tech enthusiast. You'll be a fanatic. You don't even know what you really know. Pigment of ideas. So even when you have to take on a different language and challenge yourself, you are not motivated to do so. So please, the point is, aside from the passion, even if the passion is not there, you need a lot of discipline, a discipline to get this done. And the third thing he made mention of is sacrifice. It will come at a cost. Sacrifice. I know this guy really loves to be in person at church, but there have been occasions he's had to fall. Fortunately, his church has virtual arrangements to partake in services. He's had to take advantage of that where necessary, because the thing has to happen. And then I think the fourth thing he has highlighted is about resilience, the never giving up spirit. When he has a problem, he's motivated, he's disciplined, and he's willing to go the extra mile to make sure that bug is resolved. I know once he had a problem, a bug to work around nearly 48 hours. He got a problem solved somewhere 4 a.m. It was just some small plain code B. He mentioned that to me, and he couldn't even laugh at himself. But the joy and excitement in solving such problems has its own reward. So it buttresses the point I have always been drumming home. You will smile at the end of the day, but for now, you don't expect to be smiling and enjoying what you are supposed to enjoy after you have the skill sets. Now you are learning, so some sacrifices has to go in there, guys. This is very, very, very important. This is his experience. He's just recalled them from his experiences to date and what is still keeping him moving. So Imanofori, last but one, and then Anoben, you climax it for us. If you have access to the chat section, I've already made some communication to you. So Imanofori, let's hear you.
Okay.
Hello.
So please, my question is not about his personal life, but my question is in the designing the architecture,
Yes,
we have
I love the
conceptual,
angle of your question.
we have the conceptual and then conceptual view and then the process view. Can you please explain to me this concept with regards to the diagrams you were actually drawing?
Okay. Okay. I mean, but I think this is English, but I'm sure he will address this for you. The conceptual view and then the process view. Alexis.
Yeah. So if you look, let me take the process view first. So you realize, I mean, we looked at different diagrams. Some clearly describe from where to where, from where you start to where you go to. Others give you a pictorial view, like you are looking. I mean, when we're in, there was this course pre-tech. You do front elevation for buildings. And do you remember that? I don't know if you did that.
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
The person, do you remember that?
yeah.
Yes, sir.
So, so if you look at a building, right, from that top level, you can see that okay, the kitchen will be here, the bathroom will be there, the say the bedroom will be here, but that doesn't tell you that okay, you move from the kitchen to the bathroom before you can get to bedroom. Does that?
No, sir.
That
No, sir.
that will give you that conceptual view talking about, right? So if you look at the DFD, it gives you more of that the conceptual view we are talking about here. However, the sequence of activities that happens for some of those diagrams to be that tell you that okay, then say if you take the flowchart for example, like I said you do what the guest clocks in. If he clocks in, what then will be the next thing? There is a decision to be made. After that decision, what next activity happened? I don't know if this one is clarified. So having that concept to know that this will interact with this does not necessarily tell you that you move from here to here. So it's different, but each diagram, I mean, the different diagrams can help you depict each of these ones. Like I told you, you can look more on the UML. There are different UML diagrams. There are some that talk about interactions and stuff like that. All these ones can give you, I mean, the process flow. If you look at the flow chart, in sometimes, I mean, at my workplace, for example, the process flow for say service that we need to work on can be done in flowchart, but it doesn't really follow even this flowchart paradigm. It's like a mixture of say the flowchart and then a DFD. In some cases, we use a sequence diagram. So you realize that I told you that doesn't necessarily mean you do everything, but do what will be good enough to get another engineer when he takes your diagrams or your design spec, they will know that okay, this is what I need to do. When I do this, this one will interact with this. From here, this is the next thing. I don't know if this clarifies it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think the little I'll add here is that you see what you guys should realize is the diagrams are not intended to be demanding or bulky. If you have entities involved in your solution, it's important to appreciate every single entity, both animate, inanimate. It's important to, if you have entities that an application that has data traveling from one endpoint to the other or various ways, it's relevant to make sure that you detail this in the data flow diagram as best as possible. I mean, from the beginning stage, I mean, you must have a conception of what you are trying to get. That's why we have entity diagrams and we have entity relationship diagrams. You know, all of these things have to be translated to the latter so that you address every single thing as far as your solution is concerned. And there is a diagram, and all these diagrams have symbols, adequate symbols, where you even have to take decisions in the flow chart. All of them are available. Yours is to understand your situation, break down your problems into functional, non-functional, into very, very minute details, and then see how you can use diagrams but most preferably diagrams to explain and appreciate how your entire ecosystem is going to function. So you don't leave any bottlenecks. If there is a conditional statement, we know that at this point, if it is yes, we'll turn here. If it is no, we'll turn here. Else, we continue like this. All of these things will help you. By the time you are sitting to code, oh boy, in fact, you would have even noticed so many of your problems and solved them before you go to code. You know, so it is something we need to form habit of. And if you're in the learning process, it may seem quite daunting, but it begins from somewhere before you get into the what do you call it? The cruise mode like Alexis is in right now. He doesn't have to think twice. The problem comes, he just pick draw.io and start drawing his things, etc. You know. So you guys have to pay heed to some of these comments and suggestions that have been made. Now, not being be our last person, and then we call it a day.
Mr. Alexis, I wanted to ask that aside your certification, were there other supplementary courses that you did take, and how did it help in your current work or in your workflow?
I mean, there's a lot you have to do, more than you can imagine. You know, plenty things are coming up each day, especially these big tech guys. They like using a lot of these new technologies. So, if you want to be at the top there, you need to also be willing to do a lot more learning than your usual. So, you realize I was mentioning some sites for some of these ones like Geeks for Geeks, this little code which Mark even mentioned. Personally, I've signed on Coursera, take some courses, say J Cloud. I've done things on AWS. Normally, before I even take a course, you try to read on that particular subject area, right? It is one thing you need to note. Read on it so that when you are taking the course, you have a fair idea how the thing is. The course will then explain various concepts and will make you now understand, okay, so this is why things are this way. And then you begin to more. But normally, if you go in straight away to start the course, then what happens is they will teach you are more confused. Yeah. But if you read on it, have an idea, and then you go and do the course, then you are motivated, because when they explain concepts that you were not trying to understand in your own reading or your own attempt at practicing them, then it becomes a bit more interesting. I don't know if that helps.
Yes. Mohammed, I told you I was not going to allow anyone else to ask a question. Do you really want to ask the question? Do you? Raphael, I put your hand down. You have asked enough questions. Mohammed, can you hear me? I'm thinking of giving you a chance, but it seems you are not minding me. Okay. So today I'll do my own vote of thanks. Alexis, we are grateful. It was actually quite a short notice, but like I said, he's really committed and devoted to this. If you think you need some clarification at one point in time, in the middle. Somebody talking?
Yes, sir.
Are you Mohammed?
But I don't know how to do it. Yes, please.
Oh,
I'm not
okay. Oh,
able
if I
to
noticed
access
it was a lady, I
the
wouldn't have
chat.
lowered your hand.
Listen.
Proceed. Ask your question. I'm biased like
Yes,
that.
sir.
You guys don't ask questions too much.
Please, sir. He has answered my question though.
Okay.
But yeah. But I have one issue. But that one is a request from you. I'm not
Okay.
able to access the chat session. That's why I'm not able to type.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a personal issue, and I will appreciate it. And I'm requesting if you can give me the chance to maybe meet you at the office or something.
Oh, I'm in the office right now. I'm always in the office. I'm here till I leave for the weekend, else Monday.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not
place.
around. I'm not
Okay,
a
so next week it
resident
is.
though.
Next week it is.
Okay. Then,
All
sir,
right.
another question. Sorry,
Okay.
if
Hey, who muted me? Who muted me? My goodness. Mohammed, ask your question again. Somebody muted all of us. I didn't hear you. Hey, I'm going to revoke all the rights from everybody.
you have
Mohammed,
muted me
yes,
again, sir.
we were all muted by
Okay.
somebody.
Sir, I'm requesting if he can get the contact of our speaker, Mr.
You
Alexis.
have contact all your speakers actually. I was going to climax by saying that if any team for one reason or the other, are locked within some projects, some portion of their work, and they need some guidance or an input from one of these mentors, particularly those who are not far-fetched, like Alexis and a few others who may come on board. I'm happy to connect you, but I won't just make it open right here. I need to know you are making content. So you let me know and I'll connect you so that you don't take advantage of the opportunity. Unless it's a personal, you know, yes, if you want some personal something. If it is beyond me and I think he's in the best position to guide, I will definitely recommend. That is why we are here.
The personal something is you that I want to share it.
No problem. I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here. So see you later. Salom,
Okay.
Lumo, is that a girl or a guy? If it's a guy, I won't let him talk. The guys have spoken too much. Time is fast spent. We've really exhausted so much time. Salom, if you have a male voice, you have to find a way to make it turn into a female voice. Else, I'll be biased on you. Salom, is he there or is she there?
Yes, I'm here.
This is okay. You have spoken. What is your problem?
So about the projects and stuff, he said that we should build more projects as we go on. Now, before I chose the course, I registered some courses online and I was doing it because I knew that it was very challenging. And I met some algorithms and then we were to implement it. And for every algorithm that we did, okay, whatever we learned, it was like when they give the project, it's like you don't know where to begin from. So you have to wait for like 1 week. So I want to know if it's the normal culture or it's just that like I didn't learn well.
Yes, I submit to the second part. Nevertheless, that's why you need guidance. As a matter of fact, that's the main reason why this software engineering program is essential. You know, you did introduction to fundamental programming the second semester first. You did programming one. You done you did web design and then you did object programming something as well. So the question is, how am I going to put all of these things together? How do they play out? How can I also stamp my chest and say I have developed a software? And that is the main reason why we go through this course. This is the main reason why we go through this course. That's the essence of it. So at that point, you were lost. You didn't you didn't get the right materials. I've interfaced with some of your colleagues who have extended to me courses they wish to take and sought for my opinion, whether it is relevant or it's also going to be relevant. This is actually why I want to learn it, but this is what I've seen. Let me do what I want to do. And I've given my opinion about it. And I don't stop anybody. So please, at this point, you are in a learning phase. Open up to learn more, ask questions, get the right guidance, and then walk away from anything that will waste your time so that you are told and directed the right way to go and you hit it on the head. You get the whole point. I may not cook it up and give it to you right away. I will just tell you, maybe point you in the right direction. So by the time you finish, you already sorted. If any projects come right now, you know where to start from. You know what to write, first line of code to write, where angle to go in 35 seconds. We have something to show. We are making progress. So it's about the start and whatever you committed to.
Okay.
It had to be done
So
right.
I also have another question for the speaker.
Have another one. Make it snappy.
Yes, sir. So about the user stories, are there like some specific methods I use? Because I saw somewhere they were talking about rogo benefits and limitations. I don't know if they are methods or
there are several methods, I would admit. In fact, this Scrum Agile concept we are discussing here is borrowed in project management, which is a full program on its own. People are signing up, people are getting certified in. Used to measure, there are several computations that can even go into user stories and whatnot. So yes, there are several methods. Of course, the class does not permit us to highlight all the possibilities. I mean, all the various approaches. We can only do what we can within the 10 weeks. So yes, if your question is if there are other options, yes, there are. And that is why you are learning these courses knowing that there is something like this. You can look up the others online, other materials, and see which one you think may be easy to work with, not necessarily with the one I might have demonstrated or mentioned in my video lecture. So yeah, there are more. Yes.
Okay.
Just as you are working in teams, you guys make sure you're on the same page. Some people may need to be brought on board on some of the things that you do and the skill sets. So when you also are falling behind the pecking order, you don't know what to do, and you realize your colleagues are better than you, be hungry to know what they are doing. Don't sit in your room. So media, I'll do the documentation, I'll do the write-up. Then you will learn how to code yourself and also pick a portion of the project to do. You will learn how to use GitHub and other version control applications, etc. You just want to be a spectator. Please, if you have somebody like that in your group, you just let me know. Reach me privately. Send his name to School of Dean of Students Affairs that this person is in the wrong course. You take it from there, send you to the counselor. Guys, once again, thank you for your time. Alexis, if we can see your face once more, we'll wave back at you, you know. We are grateful. We can't thank you enough. You can be rest assured. Until I'm not teaching this program again, we will always be a guest with us. Yes, that's his workstation right from his home. You see his screen there, his face there like that. If you go and look at his desk, he has monitors like that arranged, big ones. Then the MacBooks are there. It's from bed to desk, going back to bed. And I want you guys to aspire to aspire to even better what he has done for himself. And he's passionate about that as well. I like to have him always because most of you always give excuse that I didn't do science, then so on and so forth. Last year he inspired a lot of guys I've spoken to, and I thought he would also be an inspiration to some of you this time around. I'm happy. We had a lady who was even inspired, her own countryman, tribesmate as well. So that's very encouraging. We are grateful for your invaluable support and contribution. You're taking time out of your busy schedule. These white people, when you're working with them, I just got involved in some few people recently. Charlie, the time zones are crazy. The adjustment you have to make, I'm telling you, it's crazy, Alexis. I'm telling you, it's crazy, but we are all coping and adjusting. But what can we do? But the money will come, so you need to do what you need to do. Be motivated, and then
There's no motivation, so you can't do that.
I know, right? I know. I mean, after you have a business meeting, crowd to discuss something with my manager, B, and other things, but we'll see. So, guys, thanks for coming. The link is in the description section. Is it description? This is not YouTube. It's in the chat section. I'll put it in the Telegram page as well. Please, if you didn't take part in this, just know I will sort this thing out. I didn't cross 200. If you are not in the attendance per what I will download, you can't fuse yourself there. If you get the link and you still fill it anyways, I will still remove you and give you 0. You can't come and ask me why. You know you are dealing with me, so I rest my case here. Alexis, thank you very much. Anytime he comes around, I will send a Telegram message. Anybody who passes through, sometimes he's here at 8 p.m. You know how we do it. If you're around, I'll let you have a glimpse of him in person. Some people nobody has seen him. Most of the past students have not seen me in person, physically. Just I think one person, Ernest. But the rest, they haven't. But he's not far-fetched. He's just around the corner. So everybody have a good evening. Enjoy the rest of your day. And let's engage again very, very, very soon.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you too. Thank you too.
Love you, sir.
Bring me money. Don't love me. Love me with what?
Thank you, sir.
Oh, somebody's hand is up. What do you want to ask?